million kids are food insecure. And so it's really important that we learn more about this and that we understand the problems and how we can help in this serious time of need for so many people. So Jilly will be joining us momentarily. I think I might have seen something from City Harvest. Do you know, John, what Jilly's Instagram? It's City Harvest NYC's account. So let me just see. Hold on, you guys. Stand by. Sorry, I just came in from outside where it's kind of chilly. Hi, everybody. Okay, let's see if Jilly is here. Hold on, let's see.
City Harvest NYC.
Do you see it?
I see City Harvest NYC.
You do? Will you come help me, Mo? Hi, Erica. Erica Keswin is joining us. Anyway, I hope you all will think about making a donation to City Harvest or to a food bank in your area. Is that my friend? No, hold on. Adriana, who's my AV person, went home. Hi. Hi from Chicago. Thank you very much.
Chicago.
Hi, Life Inowitz. Let's see. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm having a hard time finding Jilly. Mole, you see it here?
Let me take a look.
Okay. John's going to help me. It's under the City Harvest NYC account. So let's see. Do you see it? I don't have...
But does she have an individual account or does she have a City Harvest account?
She has a City Harvest NYC account. She's joining from City Harvest. That's Adriana. I know, but Adriana, do you see?
No, only the dog whisperer. Yeah, should I show them the dogs in the meantime?
Yeah, you guys want to see our puppies that we're fostering?
Here, guys, who wants to be on camera? There.
Hi Florida, hi Ohio, City Harvest NYC. I know. I see that. Okay, meanwhile, these are the puppies we're fostering. This is Annie and this is Chi Chi.
Tell them what they've learned to
do. What do they love to do?
No,
they learn to do. They learn to sit.
Yes.
And they're so cute. Only I can see it. Hold on. Are we sure that Jilly is here? Hold on. Anyway, if you guys want to adopt two adorable puppies, they are German Shepherd Chihuahua mix, and they're so sweet. And they're really, really affectionate and so adorable. Okay, hold on.
Can you see Jilly?
I'm looking. Here. Let me look here. Oh gosh, I'm sorry.
Doesn't she have to ask to come in?
Yeah, I think she has to request for me to anyway, put the puppies so we'll entertain everybody for a minute. No, don't. Here, bring them closer to me so everyone can see them. Seriously, look at that face. Don't you guys want this puppy? This is Annie. She's so, so cute. Okay, hold on. Ooh. Wait a second. Okay, you guys, I'll be right back. I am so sorry. I can search your name. Okay, let me try this.
City Harvest.
City Harvest. I'm searching. City Harvest. Here we go. No?
View requests. Somebody else.
Oh, wait. View requests.
That's not
Gosh, I am so sorry, everyone. I am worthless and hopeless without Adriana here to help this old broad. Yeah, Carrie? Oh, here I see it. Hi, there you are. I see you.
Okay, good.
Okay. Go live. So sorry. Let's see if she's here. By the way, I just sprayed this stuff. Hi, Jilly.
Hi.
I'm so sorry that we had some issues finding you. But in the meantime, we showed our little foster puppies. Are you in the market for adopting a couple of rescue dogs?
Well, I saw them. They're adorable. I can't take one more adopted dog, but my heart's with you with that. They're so sweet.
We're hoping that they'll find a home where someone will adopt both of them because they're sisters. And John, say hi to
Hi,
Jilly.
Jilly.
John wanted to
Hi,
say
John. How are you? Good to see both of you.
nice to see you, and thank you for doing this. And everyone who's listening, thank you all for joining us because, you know, we wanted to talk with Jilly for a moment about City Harvest, which is an incredible organization, and really about people in need during the holiday season. I was just saying, Jilly, 50 million Americans are food insecure, 17 million of those are kids. What do you hear that expression, food insecure? Can you tell us what exactly that means?
Yeah, it's slightly different wording. We used to talk about hunger. It's something that was brought in several years ago, and food insecurity is really a state when you don't have a good, constant, reliable source of food. You don't always know that there's going to be a next meal for you or your family. And as you've just covered, far too many people in the country are experiencing food insecurity more now than ever before. And we're certainly seeing that in New York City.
Can you talk about, I mean, it's probably a pretty obvious question, but food insecurity has increased significantly because of the pandemic, because many people who were living on the edge have now lost their jobs. Many people, you know, are just in a very difficult situation. But can you tell us about how things have changed and what the changes you've witnessed pre-pandemic and now during the pandemic?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I always think it's important to remember in a city like New York City, we already had a significant problem before the pandemic. We knew from something called the self-sufficiency standard that about 2.5 million New Yorkers were struggling to make ends meet. That is, pay all of their bills and still have enough to put food on the table. And often it was food that they would skip because they could go to a food pantry.
Right.
Now, since the pandemic, we've just seen the numbers of people turning to food pantries and our own direct distributions surge incredibly. We're seeing lines of people that we had never before experienced. You know, we have about a dozen food pantries who regularly receive about 5 times more than they typically would receive. Lines spreading for blocks. I know we've seen it in the news, and we see it in the news from around the country, whether people are standing in lines or they're driving through. The need is incredible.
And the supply really been affected, hasn't it? Because of, you know, can you talk about the interconnectivity, Jilly, between, say, restaurants and the food that's available in the various food pantries, not just in New York City, but really all across the country?
Yeah, well, restaurants always are close to our heart at City Harvest because we were born out of the restaurant industry. We continue to rely on the restaurant industry in typical years. And of course, it's an industry that's been devastated through this pandemic. What amazes me is that so many of them, the chefs and restaurateurs in the city, still find ways to help give back to City Harvest, whether they're donating a percentage of their proceeds when they had to switch to delivery and takeout only. There's one restaurant in New York City that many will know called Couric, who donated, I think, 10% of their proceeds during that really difficult time at the beginning of the pandemic. They'd probably laid off some of their staff and still found room to support City Harvest and help to feed over 20,000 families for a day. So it's an important industry and one that's really struggling.
Yes, yes, for sure. But having said that, and I think you're right, the restaurateurs in New York City are so special, and we have to support these businesses any way we can. What has been the actual real world impact of sort of how the pandemic has affected all the different, the supply chains, the restaurants, et cetera? Someone just said same for farms, and how this is all had an impact on the kind of food that's available for the neediest Americans.
Well, at City Harvest, we rely year-round on donated food, whether it's coming from wholesalers, retailers, people who just have excess food. It's great food that can be donated rather than wasted, because we know we have an issue with wasting a lot of food. At the beginning of the pandemic, we initiated an emergency feeding plan, which means that we start buying food, which we don't do in a typical year. So the type of food that we're distributing has stayed relatively steady with a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and then we're buying in shelf-stable food. And it was difficult in those early first few weeks of the pandemic. We were placing orders for food to be delivered, and we had wait times of 3 months. But once we got through those first several weeks, the orders started to come in. We've kept a pretty steady flow of food coming in, and that we're distributing free of charge to what is now about 400 pantries. Because another early event in April is that a lot of the pantries that we bring food to closed down. About 25% of them closed down, which means that we opened up about 30 emergency relief feeding sites just to fill in the gaps where those pantries had closed. And very unusually, Katie, at this stage, 9 months in, those emergency relief sites are still open. After Hurricane Sandy or the government shutdown, those sites will pop up. They'll stay up for several weeks, maybe a few months. It's highly unusual for them to still be open 9 months in.
Which just shows the need. You know, I know there are stories of people, and many of these people are needing food assistance for the first time.
Yeah.
It's quite difficult for them to come to the food pantries. Tell us some of the stories without, obviously, we want to protect people's privacies, but can you give us some examples, Jilly, of people who have needed to come to food pantries and to use the services of City Harvest, for the first time?
Yeah, I mean, Kate, at this point, it's just, we don't need to use the names because it's become a bit of an archetype. It's a lot of young families where one or both jobs in the household have been lost. In the middle, we saw a lot of people who were coming where there was a construction worker in the house, for example, and construction completely stopped in the city. So we hear from a lot of people who are showing up for the first time. And you're right, for many people, it will be a long path that they'll tread before they'll go and stand in line. And the lines are long. They might exhaust retirement savings or max out a credit card, borrow from family. And that path can be a long one. And I'm just grateful that we can be there with the help of all of our supporters to put out as much food as we possibly can.
How many New Yorkers do you feed every day, Jilly?
We're putting out over 300,000 pounds of food a day. It's projected that the number of New Yorkers who are officially food insecure is going to grow to about 1.6 million this year. That includes over 520,000 children, which is a 63% increase in food insecurity. So the numbers are great. And even that doesn't tell the whole story, right? Because we're not capturing in that number people who are undocumented, who really are having a very hard time because they're not accessing some of the benefits available to others. So those are just some of the reasons that the lines are not only long, but they're growing, and we don't expect them to go away anytime soon.
People who are undocumented, they can't get the services of City Harvest or food pantry.
They can come and get food from a food pantry or from City Harvest, but they don't have access to things like SNAP, which formerly known as the food stamp benefit, or unemployment assistance. So, their struggle is very different, but I'm grateful they can come and get food, and they do come and get food from us and from the pantries that we serve.
So you primarily get your food from grocery stores. Tell me where you get the food from. Donated food, grocery stores, restaurants. I mean, can you sort of give us an idea?
Well, in a typical year, a non-pandemic year, we're bringing in about a third of what a typical year, last regular year, we brought in just over 60 million pounds of food. About a third of that came in from donors in the 5 boroughs. We work just in the 5 boroughs, so wholesalers, retailers, grocery stores, restaurants, sometimes a little bit from restaurants. And then the remaining 2/3 will come in on tractor trailer loads. Still food that's free, still food that otherwise would be wasted. Maybe the carrots grew too big and the farmer's donating them. So
or
about 42 million.
they're ugly and
Oh,
not.
they're ugly.
That's
We
so.
think that food is beautiful,
I
and that's food that we can get out the same day.
so much food waste in this country. It's just such a, it's criminal, really, how much food is wasted when
Yeah.
people are hungry. So I'm sorry to interrupt. So food that maybe that's still good, but for whatever reason can't be sold in a regular grocery store. Or what about if it's near the expiration date, but it's, perfectly fine to consume?
That's all food we can get. And in fact, I was out in my neighborhood yesterday and I ran into a City Harvest driver with his truck picking up from a grocery store. And that's always a joyous moment to actually see the drivers and the trucks on the road. And I stopped and chatted to him. And it's been snowing in New York City. He said, it must be tricky to be out here in this weather. And he said, it is. I go slow. He said, but really the most important thing is getting food. The people at the other end, he said, that's what makes me keep going. And I hear that from all of my colleagues. Very clear, visible evidence that people need help.
And so many volunteers too who are
Yeah.
working at these pantries all across the country. And of course, in New York City, I'm on Long Island, so there's a lot of need out here as well. So how can people help? I have the nicest people who follow me. And honestly, we've built such a nice community, and I know they would like to help and do what they can. So what is the best way, Jilly, for people to help?
Well, I would say for any organization like City Harvest, and we're a member of Feeding America, so Feeding America represents food banks across the country. For us, anyone who wants to support in New York City, you can go to cityharvest.org, and financial donations are going to be the most efficient and most effective way to help us get more food out to New Yorkers. Or I know your listeners are from all around the country. And probably overseas. Around the country, you can just tap into Feeding America and find your local food bank at
They
City Harvest,
sorry to interrupt,
feedingamerica.org.
uh-huh.
Yeah. At
And
cityharvest.org, any donation is going to be matched by the Stavros Niarchos Foundation up to $500,000 before December 31st. So you
awesome.
can double your gift in this moment with
Even
that help.
even $10 is, you can access a lot of food to serve food insecure people for really not that much money. So people should really give what they can, maybe forgo Christmas presents, or not buy so much stuff this year, and
Yeah.
really people in need.
Yeah, you're right. And for City Harvest, $13 will help us rescue and deliver 10 pounds of food. And with the match from the Stavros Niarchos Foundation, then that helps us get out 20 pounds of food in this moment. So, and we've been so touched by the generosity of New Yorkers and people around the country who are really fueling our response. This year, we'll rescue and deliver close to 120 million pounds of food, which is double what we would typically do. And we can only do that because of the support of generous Americans who make
Wow.
it
And
possible.
that foundation, that's incredibly generous of that foundation. What can you tell us about who that foundation and who's behind it?
Well, that's one foundation of many. We've been, as I said, incredibly touched by the outpouring of support. The Stavros Niarchos Foundation has been supporting City Harvest and many great nonprofits around the world for many years. And we're truly grateful and humbled not only by their donation, but by all of the others we've received, which, as I said, fuel our response to get more food out to New York City.
So if someone asks if you can give it in someone's honor as a gift, can you do that on the website where they're notified that a gift has been made in your name to City Harvest?
You can actually. We've seen a lot of people do that this year. I think you just touched on it, and I have one board member in particular who said that he and his wife have asked friends and family members to give to City Harvest this year rather than getting them gifts. And yes, there is a place when people do that online to make it in honor of somebody. And that's just, I think, a very touching gift and a difference that we've seen this year.
And we want to remind people they can go to cityharvest.org or feedamerica.org. And then you can, and they can also, if they go to feedamerica.org, Jilly, can they find food pantries that are in their areas? Because I think a lot of people would like to make a donation to help people in their own community. And not all my listeners or followers are necessarily just from New York.
That's right. It's feedingamerica.org.
Oh, sorry.
That's
Feedingamerica.org.
okay. And there's an easy way once you get there to find where your local food bank is.
Okay, well, that's awesome. Someone asked how long you've been doing this. And why don't you tell everybody before we go a little bit about how you got into this kind of work?
I've been at City Harvest for 16 years. I had been working before this for a big international medical charity working in developing countries for about 10 years and moved with them to New York City. And I think that first holiday season, I lived in New York working for that nonprofit. I found out about City Harvest and started donating to the organization myself. And just fell in love with it. And we hear that from a lot of staff, that it's an organization they want to be at and really target the organization. I kept an eye on it, and one day the right opportunity came up.
Well, it is a fantastic organization, and you're lucky to have the support of many very well-known chefs in New York City, or I think Eric Repair is a big supporter. Who else? What other names?
Eric Repair is the vice chairman of our board, which we're very grateful to have his participation. And then Jeffrey Zakarian chairs our food council and is also on the board of directors, along with Marcus Samuelson, Mark Murphy, Rick Smilo from ICE in New York City. So we're incredibly grateful for that support. And then I mentioned the food council that Jeffrey chairs, which is an incredibly humbling group of supporters. They're active year-round in support of helping City Harvest feed more New Yorkers. And I think a lot of that is, as chefs, no matter how fantastic the restaurant is, they want to feed New Yorkers from all walks of life. And they've proved that year in, year out, and never more so than during this pandemic, when they've just stepped up again and in different ways.
Well, they're a very special group of people, and they do it without a lot of fanfare, and do it quietly, so they deserve to be recognized. So I'm glad you mentioned them. And if there's other people that you'd like me to mention when I post this, please let us know. But anyway, Jilly, thank you so much for sharing the story of City Harvest with us. And hopefully a lot of people will be inspired to make a donation this holiday season, so people can have full bellies and feel a little better around this time of year, which is going to be tough for a lot of people anyway.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie. And thank you too for the many ways you found to support us over the years. That's always been very meaningful, and we're grateful to you for that. Thank you.
I'm happy to spread the word about a great organization. So thanks, Jilly, and everyone.
Thanks, Katie.
Harvest.org or feedingamerica.org, and think about making a donation to either organization or to your local food pantry. Jilly, I hope you have a wonderful holiday, and thank you very much for everything you do.
You too, Katie. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.